All right, let's hope I have it wired right. Hang on to the fuel bottle just in case it falls.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're back with the RX7 deemed the fried banana because it's very fried sitting in the New Mexico sun. Anyways, we got Brian here from Rotary here in Albuquerque. So we're doing this RX7 stuff we know nothing about. He knows a lot. So also if you're in Albuquerque or in, I think, the surrounding four states, this is the guy to go to. He knows everything there is about him. I don't know. Hopefully I'm not talking to you too much and then people show up now.
Yeah, no, that's good.
He knows everything. So Rotary here, he's going to help us. As you've seen, we got it to at least crank because I didn't want to bring him over here and the starter be shit or something be completely useless. But we're going to do a compression test on this, which is what you've been saying, completely different than a standard piston engine. It's, I guess, not more complicated, but you need a special tester. So he brought that over here with us. So we're going to run a compression test on this and see if this engine's worth putting money into or if we need to pull it and he just rebuilds it for us. So...
yeah, so this tester is pretty cool. It'll give us a reading of each face of each rotor, so that way we can get an accurate reading. It'll correct it for cranking speed, altitude, and we'll be able to see if this engine is good to go and worth putting a little bit of more time into. So
cool. So yeah, we're gonna start on that, hooking this all up. We pulled the top two spark plugs out. This is just what he's told me. I don't know anything. So we pulled the top two out, and then we're gonna hook up the tester, and then we'll get the trigger in and get that starter so we can crank it.
So here we've got the sensor plugged into the trailing plug hole on the front rotor. We're just going to plug this guy in, and then we can power on this guy, and we'll get a reading for each face of each face of the rotor on the front, and then this will be corrected for altitude and cranking speed, so we can get a good idea of the health on the front. Then if everything looks good there, we'll unplug it and do the same thing on the rear.
How many times do we crank it to get those readings? Is it just a dozen times?
Yeah, there'll be a bar graph on here that goes and it fills up, and then once you get to the end, you just let off right there.
Oh, really? So it just tells you until you're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the difference in using this versus a piston tester is you can use a normal compression tester. It's not going to correct the numbers for altitude and cranking speed. So the numbers will be a little bit lower, but really you just hold the Schrader valve open and you want to see consistent pulses on each face of each rotor.
Okay.
So typically on a piston engine, you'll be seeing a lot higher compression than on a rotary. A brand new engine from Mazda would be right around 120, high 120s. Anything for us over 75, we'd be happy with. Anything lower than that, it's time to start thinking about a rebuild. So normally, if we were testing it like this, you would want to hold the throttle open, so just that way the engine can ingest as much air as possible. Since we don't have a carburetor on it right now, we're good to go. We just make sure there's nothing that's going to get sucked in there. One thing that's important to know is we did disable fuel. Obviously, there's no carburetor on there. And we do have the remaining plugs taken out of there. So if you did add fuel, it's not going to light off on you right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So yeah, go ahead and...
What's up?
I'm going to say that's cool. It's all above 100.
No way.
Yeah, those are excellent.
So that's it. It's done. That's the easiest compression test I've ever done, to be honest.
Do you know if there's any engine or any oil that's been introduced into the carburetor?
Well,
into the intake,
they kind of look like it because these had oil on them, as you saw. So I don't know, but I mean, we did run it and it fired off. So any oil in there's probably blown out, but I'm hoping it's not. There's no,
Is it better to have the oil?
Yeah, you want some oil in there to help lubricate things. We don't know how long this car's been sitting before you got it, or we don't know what the last guy did to it. But you want a little bit of oil in there, but that will boost the numbers. I mean, this is looking solid. Everything on the test, it does seem artificially high, that 132, and then we did see some oil on the plugs. Yeah. So there might be a little bit of oil in there, but we're not seeing anything drastically low. So if you saw what was this, a before correction 103, 107, 112, if you saw a 70 in there and one was a lot lower than the others, that could be,
then might be something.
Yeah, there could be something going on. But yeah, this is looking good. Let's hit it one more time just to be sure. Yeah, so looking pretty solid. 120, 121, 130. Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay.
And so you can hear basically how strong the pulse is. So we had the tester plugged in on the front, right?
Yeah.
You could hear how strong those strong pulses we're hearing was out of the rear, right? So
Okay.
now we plug this tester into the rear, and hopefully we still hear the strong
From the
pulses
front.
out the front. And then we'll have the number to verify that everything's
Yeah.
even on both chambers.
Okay.
So we'll let this do its little startup sequence, and then yeah, you'll be
That's
good to give that a
awesome.
shot. And correct the numbers: 116, 110, 109.
Wow.
Nice.
It's good. Yeah,
So do it one more time.
yeah. Let's do it again. A little bit lower on the rear, but it's
Not
looking
by
solid.
much. Yeah. I mean,
104,
it'll still run.
106.
Good.
Yeah.
So the front has a little more compression, at least what we're seeing.
Yeah, I'd imagine there was a
Debating on how
little
much
bit of
oil.
oil
Yeah.
in the chambers. I think that's probably a little bit closer to
I'd say
an
that seems
accurate
more
number.
accurate.
But we're seeing high compression all the way through on the engine. So you really want to run the plug that the ignition is designed to fire.
Okay.
So like a lot of people will do like direct fire with the ignition, and then you want to run a little bit hotter of a plug. This though, like these
will be fine.
yeah, these 8s, they're perfect. That's what the car was designed to.
Because I
fire.
saw the 4 electrodes, and I thought, like, because I know they make those not gimmicky ones, but like for other cars, it's like multiple points. So I didn't know if that was what that was, but if that's like standard, then that's perfect.
Yeah, that's what we want to run for sure. This guy would be the move. It's just a little sandblaster for the plugs. So really, we're just gonna. So like, I already kind of wiped down the outside of it, or hit it with a wire wheel, or a wire brush. They looked like that before, you know. So we'll kind of see what they look like, kind of just wire brushed. So really, what I do is I just kind of last it, and then I'll kind of spin the plug a little bit to make sure we're getting the whole inside, and then we'll hit it with some brake parts cleaner, or carb cleaner, blast out real good, hit it with a quick shot of compressed air, throw them back in. Compare. Blast these guys. On this car, all 4 plugs are going to be the 8 on the heat range. Later cars, you're going to have like a hotter plug on the leading and then a colder plug on the trailing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When you start running these cars like turbocharged or like higher horsepower, you're going to want a colder plug at the leadings as well. But for what we're doing, 8s are going to be perfect all the way around. Okay. But you do want to make sure that we pick the nicest plugs that we have, looking specifically at the porcelain and the roundness of that center, and then also the electrodes. We're going to pick the nicest ones that we have to run at the bottom or on the leading plugs, which are going to be
okay. So the bottom ones are your leading, your top are your trailing.
And if you look at the engine, you're going to see an L and a T down here, and that's what you want to show.
It.
And that
leading and trailing.
Yeah, exactly. And they also make it easy for like lower or top. So you'll have the lower plugs and then the top plugs, leading plugs, and then the trailing plugs. Just remember, like as you're driving this car and building this and
doing stuff,
working on this thing, the leadings are the important ones. The trailing's not as important. So this one for sure is your nicest plug. These, so like you can see this porcelain has a crack in it. This one does as well. So we're gonna put those on the trailing where it's not as important. Yeah. So really, this guy moves that way. This diaphragm, we should be able to push it.
All right. Yeah. So it's popped up. Well, we got it to move.
Yeah, was it the secondary? Is that where?
Am I? Oh, I see. It's there. There it is. Something is not connected down here. Yeah, that's just. So these carbs are still worth something, though, right?
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. You know, a couple $100, $300. You know, like if you had like a really nice one that was like rebuilt and like running, I'd say like, $300. You know. So it's like, but honestly, man, they work pretty good. So like, you know, like they still run like the Spec 7 class in Colorado, and they have I think about 8 cars that just go out and race. So Spec 7 is like it's kind of like a Spec Miata class, you know, where you're just limited on what you can do to the cars, you know. And I think they do have in some of the classes, like at least the Texas class, I think they allow like Webers, you know. Obviously they limit you on like choke size and like. I think you may be limited on like what jets you're running, but most guys are going to run like a Nicky, you know, because these carbs, like they're pretty drivable. And honestly, like, at least when I did like my Webers and stuff, like you don't really make any more like peak power. So honestly, like, I don't know if it's worth it, you know, spending money on an aftermarket intake manifold and an aftermarket carburetor and then having to go through and put bigger jets on it, you know, and then depending on if it's like a Weber or like a Holly, something that's gonna like drink a lot of fuel, you got to put like a bigger fuel pump, you know.
Yeah, then you're all that extra. Okay, so maybe just
So
leaving
I mean,
this-
at least like it's worth like you
Getting it
already
running
have
with
one
it.
and getting it running and see how it does, and then even maybe the first couple shakedowns, you know, see how it
Yeah.
does. Struggling with over here, the throttle cable.
Oh, sweet.
I say we kind of
Leave it.
get some fuel into the carb.
Oh, because
see
that
what
could be like
happens.
a solenoid shutoff for the
Yeah,
fuel, huh?
yeah. Never run a rotary off a what is it, lawnmower?
Yeah, this
Gas?
is like that,
But you know,
stuff you
The
buy.
first.
it's
But the
it's
thing is-
2-stroke.
This
Yeah.
is all. What's cool about this stuff? It's all ethanol free. That you can buy big jugs of it, but it's ethanol free pre-mix.
So we're not going to gum up the carburetor.
No,
it's gonna
that's
be,
what's nice.
Yeah.
it can
It's like
sit as long as it wants, and it's going to be fine.
Exact.
Yeah, they have
Oh,
a
that's
sight glass
awesome.
here on the side, and this one you can see pretty easily. The one from here, it's always better to like use your phone and like kind of
Look
just use the
inside.
camera there. You want the fuel level right at half. I can see the float on here, so it hasn't lifted yet. We'll probably need to pump a little bit more fuel into the carb. We're not pumping the gas too much because we know now already that
Yeah,
we're
we
leaking
won't.
a lot of fuel on this side.
and not
um,
enough on the other.
Not enough on the other side. I think we have a little bit, but I think this seems to have
Because then
kind
I'll
of
just
sat
work.
down.
We'll crank it and then just kind of work the pump when it seems
Yeah.
like it needs it.
Okay, so we're pretty confident that we have spark, right? Like it was consistent, right? Like
Oh, it
the
was
car
super
ran and it
consistent.
was running. And
Oh,
you're
it
like,
was just like
stop running.
vroom. Yeah,
So we know ignition is good. Fuel, we have fuel at the engine.
yeah. So
Um,
we should be set.
Let's
and then
just,
we'll
we're not in
disconnect-
gear, right? We are in neutral.
There's a no drive shaft.
Let me get those caps that I have, those vacuum caps.
Oh,
Those
thank you.
two. This is on here, good enough
Yeah, that looks fine.
for now. I
There's-
think this guy may get us there. It's kind of goofy, this cap, but
Yeah.
so plug it for now. Okay.
Yeah, that'll work. It'll suck it.
And it matches the other ones.
All right, let's hope I have it wired right. Hang on to the fuel bottle just in case it falls. Oh, yeah.
Woo!
Oh,
Yeah.
crap.
Good.
Did it sound pretty decent? I mean, that sounded fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, at first we had so much fuel in there that it was kind of like
Yeah, it
you
definitely
know,
was.
struggling, and then it kind of
It blew it out. You
burned
can
that
see it.
off, and
All
she's
right.
good, dude. This thing is
That's
gonna be
sick.
A ripper.
a ripper.
So
Yeah.
now it's just fuel system and figure out the wiring. So I
Clean
can
up
hook
a little bit of the wiring?
alternator. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo! That wasn't too bad.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it sounded good. I mean, there's no exhausted, it ends like right
Yeah.
there.
It also seems like it was leaking maybe like before that. Like there was definitely, it was loud right here.
Oh,
you know?
some exhaust leak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something. But you
I
know,
definitely want to just do like the header for sure. And then it kind of, well, you were giving it throttle that whole time.
yeah, I
You're
kind of had to
messing
keep
with
it
it?
alive.
Okay.
Yeah. Once we let off completely,
It just kind of
died?
died.
but
Because I pulled the choke and it seemed to was actually doing it.
Yeah,
And
it
then
did
I
it,
let
yeah.
it off and then you let off and it all died. But so I think, keep that carb and I'll just do new gaskets underneath. Or that's the thing. Or
I mean, honestly, I would not even sweat it if it's
Really?
not leaking. You know.
Okay.
Oh, there's the leak. That's what it is.
that's why.
So
is
this,
it?
we might need this to be plugged. That
Okay.
might be a huge vacuum leak, and that might be why it died.
Oh, I see.
I think this is the vacuum leak that we're seeing.
Perfect. Okay, you guys ready? You want me to give it a little choke too?
Yeah, choke it and see what happens.
No, now I got nothing.
Hmm.
Wiggle that. There it is. Whoops. Oh, headlights went down. Okay, ready? Did you head off? That's nothing. It's idling. No hand. All right, I'm gonna kill it since I don't think it has any water.
Just vacuum leaks. That's it.
Okay, so wait, were you keeping your hand on that hose?
Did you feel it when, like, you heard it when
Yeah.
it cleaned up a lot? Yeah, it's just this guy. So I had my finger on 2 of them.
Okay.
This guy,
Let me see, because then we'll plug those.
and they're super obvious. You know, we can
Yeah.
tell we're not hooked up. This guy right here, down
The
here,
big one
and then this
That
guy,
one.
which is supposed to go
that all connects
right
to
here.
that.
Look. So we just plug that in there. It might be. It's crazy.
That's sick.
Woo!
That's
awesome.
awesome. Well, that's it.
Yeah, it's good.
This is fun.
I can't wait to see you guys out at the track and
Oh, it'll be there.
having this car and driving it the way it's supposed to be. So
Jeez. All right. So thanks for Brian. Rotary Rehab. He came, and I thought we were just do a compression test, and then he's like, "We're gonna get this running," and I was like,
got
we
it
did."
Yeah.
So I was pretty stoked. We ran it off of some lawnmower 2-stroke fuel. So we have some oil going into it, but this stuff's great because if you ever want it, it's non-ethanol. It's really good fuel.
Yeah.
So, and it works great. But yeah, he's like, we can get it running. So we hooked up the carb. We hooked up the throttle even. I mean, everything. And I got it to just turn the key. There's still some wiring, but it's not major issues. But yeah, it starts up, runs as you saw. It idled.
we had it idling.
Yeah, we had it idling, just plugging off some more vacuum lines. And then he was suggesting, which we'll end up doing, and we'll do a video, is we're going to pull that Nikki carb off. We're going to keep it, actually, because it is running great. And we're going to pull off all the extra stuff that doesn't need it, all the extra vacuum things, everything like that. So we're going to do a video on just stripping that carburetor down, and then probably doing an exhaust on it to get rid of all the smog emissions things. And to me, that would be good enough. And then we'll get some tires on it. Hopefully the transmission's good. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
We'll see, because
It's all out there.
that's the there's no drive shaft in right now. I have the drive shaft. So that's it. So thanks for Brian for coming
Yeah.
over here
Yeah,
to
thank you guys
help us
for having
out.
me.
Check out his, I mean, you have
Instagram.
Rotary Rehab. He's always doing something super cool. I guarantee you, too, if you have parts that you need, he'll probably sell them to you or help you out. So check his shop out. And thanks again for coming.
Cool.
Yeah.